just rang my doorbell, which happens like once a year. So
yeah, no worries.
But it's all right. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So can kind of both of you guys just go and kind of state your kind of involvement with the band and kind of overall what you've contributed so far?
Okay, Jason, you want to take that one?
Sure. I'm Jason Neesmith, Pylon fan and Pylon Reenactment Society founding member, along with Vanessa and Kay Stanton and Gregory Sanders. Been playing music with Vanessa for over, I'm gonna say over 10 years now. I'm not sure if it's that, anyway, yeah, it's about that long.
Since 2014.
Okay, not quite 10 years yet.
Almost. It feels like 20, doesn't it?
That's right. And the time flies when you're having fun category.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm just thinking of PRS because we had Super Cluster before. So
That's
you're
right.
Since maybe 2007. So it has been more than 10 years.
Wow. So that's 15 years that we've been playing music.
Wait, wow, that's amazing. Awesome. So can you guys kind of describe the past of Pylon Reenactment Society, how this all got started, and kind of what was kind of the catalyst for kind of
I'm
how—
turning my video off because it's freezing.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll do the same. We'll all be videoless. Okay.
Cool. Do you mean to repeat the question?
Who's it addressed to?
Oh, either of you guys can take it.
Okay. Yeah, please readdress the question.
Yes, totally. Yeah, so kind of how did Pylon Reenactment Society kind of get started, and kind of what was the catalyst for how it is today?
Sure. In a nutshell, there was a collection of exhibits about the Athens arts that sprang up simultaneously with the music scene of the mid to late 70s. And a lot of the artists were also musicians, and musicians were also artists. And there was a lot of cross-pollination. And there was thought to have some kind of a musical component, even though the focus was on the arts. And I was tasked with putting together some evening musical performances, and I reached out to Vanessa, and the idea came about that even though Pylon was no longer a band due to Randy Bewley's passing, that we could respectfully do some Pylon material and see, just to represent that moment. So I gathered some folks from the band that I had at the time called Casper and the Cookies, and people loved it. And we had so much fun that we did it the next year. And as long as Curtis and Michael and Vanessa will allow us to do this, then we're going to do it, because it's just, the music's just too good, and we're having so much fun playing in the spirit of Pylon and writing new material.
Cool, awesome. And what would you say kind of your genre is, and some of your kind of influences that you kind of see in your music today?
Well, I guess I'll take that one. Back when Pylon originally were playing, this genre was basically just called the new music. It was what kind of sprang up following punk rock and new wave, and included bands like Joy Division as an example. But as far as influences go, everybody in Pylon at that time pretty much liked different types of things. There were a few things we all liked and enjoyed. One of them was the Eraserhead soundtrack. Another was Kraftwerk. We all loved James Brown, and used to use Cold Sweat as a warm-up song. Sometimes, when we need to get ourselves a little bit hypered up before the show. But we kind of came out of art school and we were self-taught musicians. So whatever we were doing really just came from ourselves, and the sound came from those particular 4 people. We wanted to keep it simple in some ways and tight. We liked if, people danced. Of course, when we first started playing, people didn't dance at first. They didn't know what to make of this stuff. But as time went on and we grew, and got like the support of bands like the B-52s and the Gang of Four and so on, got to tour. We met other like-minded bands around the country, like Mission Burma in Boston, or Bush Tetras in New York City, or Romeo Void over in San Francisco, and of course Gang of Four over in Leeds. Now, I guess what they call this music is maybe alternative, adult alternative rock, but and also I've heard it termed post-punk. So you can just take whatever you would like out of all of that. But really, we're just Pylon and now Pylon Reenactment Society, like Jason is saying, we're using Pylon as like a springboard to write our own material.
Awesome. And how did you guys kind of come up with the name Pylon?
Michael and Curtis and I all worked at a factory called DuPont. It was very clean and industrial place that was full of all of these elements that you saw used in some of the band's flyers and things at the time. We actually were thinking of not even calling ourselves a word at first, because we were art students. We thought about, well, hey, why don't we just, we'll be diagonal and just show pictures of different types of diagonals and not even use the word. But that probably went over like a lead balloon back then. But Michael happened to see the safety cone, those orange cones at the factory, in places that you weren't supposed to go, that might have a sign that says danger, keep out, or there was a wet spot on the floor, whatever. There was beautiful, gleaming, brand new orange safety cones. And he found out what they were called. Technically, they're called pylons, so we decided to call ourselves Pylon.
Awesome. That's really cool. So with your backgrounds as artists, do you think that's kind of influenced your sound now, kind of breaking out of a normal barrier of how kind of music in the past sounded, and being more like experimental with Pylon and your sound?
Yes, I mean, I guess we were a little experimental for the time. Some people like Dana Downs, who's in a local band who was there in Sauce, said it was like just hearing this great big aircraft cranking up, and roaring to life or whatever. Very, kind of loud. It could be abrasive, but we could also be melodic. So, I guess, that kind of industrial look kind of influenced this, the brutalist art. We came out of an art school that had a direct influence from the European artists, like in the Bauhaus, so we learned all of that directly by tradition from artists who had been trained by artists who came from that tradition. So minimalism was a tool in our kit,
Awesome. I mean, if you guys don't mind, where did you guys, Vanessa, like, where did you go to art school at?
We went to the University of Georgia at that time. the art school. Believe it was called the Lamar Dodd Art School of Art, but I might be wrong. I've been wrong before,
All
but
good.
that's what it was. And it drew young people from all over the Southeast and sometimes from further beyond. We had like a visiting chair, for instance, for 2 years was Elaine de Kooning, William de Kooning's wife came, and Philip Guston came and visited us. We had a lot of artists come through at invitation from various artists who were teaching us, and our instructors were Jim Herbert, Robert Croker, Judith McWillie, and so on. So we got a very good background and really learned to think outside the box, which I think contributed to both the look and the sound of our band.
Awesome. And then kind of for both of you guys, what is it about music and playing together that makes you guys feel so passionate?
Well, that's an enormous question. Well, to be specific about this, to me, as a fan, well, I didn't know life without music. And I was always really a voracious listener. And when I heard Pylon, I hadn't heard anything like it before. And that was what stuck with me, was that these were 4 people approaching their instruments unlike anyone had ever heard in the past. And that is something that will pique my passion, and inspires me to, ironically, to not to imitate them, but to follow in their footsteps and see where else it can go. So it, in a way, we're still playing songs that the original Pylon did right back in 1979, 1980, and past that. But we're also taking that brief and moving forward with it, seeing where else it can go. And that's something that I think Vanessa shares, and that really drives us.
Awesome. And that
Sure. And I mean, I've really, really enjoyed writing with this group of people. I mean, when you're creating something with a group of people, it's a very personal thing, and it's I've just been very lucky to work with first Pylon and now this group of people in Pylon Reenactment Society, because I think we're in the same wavelength in a lot of ways, and it's invigorating in some ways. In some ways, it's like, I just have to leave myself open to whatever it is they're doing, because the music to me inspires what the vocals will do. The vocals have to find a place in what they're doing so that it works together.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Cool. And this might be an obvious one, but is that why it's called Pylon Reenactment Society? Because it's kind of based off of the original Pylon?
Well, that was actually, it came, I decided to call it that because it was really just going to be a one-off thing at first, like a performance, a one-off performance. And Pylon had gotten back together several times over the years, and we would jokingly call ourselves at practice the Pylon Historical Reenactment Society, because we had to relearn all that material and reenact it. And so I just thought it was kind of funny, and also because it is not Pylon, I thought it was appropriate to make sure that there was a difference. There's bands who are touring out there that don't even have original members, or only 1 or 2 original members, and they dared to call themselves, whatever that band name is. So I it would have been easy to just say this is Pylon, but it's not. And fans, I think, would resent that and not like it. So here we are.
Exactly. Well, I know a lot of people who sort of in a shorthanded way call us Pylon, but I'm always careful to correct them just out of respect.
Yeah, I do too, unless they're drunk and I don't want to get in an argument.
Awesome. And so kind of how many people are currently a part of Pylon Reenactment Society? And if you don't mind, could you kind of break down everybody's role in the band right now?
Sure, that's a quick one. Vanessa is the vocalist. I am the guitarist. Kay Stanton is the bass player, and Gregory Sanders is the drummer.
Awesome.
We will occasionally have somebody else join us, but that's the unit.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And kind of, so when you guys are playing, how does it feel when you guys are like playing a song? Like, what's the energy like? How could you describe that feeling?
Well, okay, I'll go first.
You go first because I'm sorry I started eating oatmeal.
No worries.
You have some cookies, some oatmeal cookies to go along with it. So I'll say, well, for me, when I'm playing Randy's parts, I'm thinking about, part of my brain is thinking about how similar he approached the instrument to how I approach it as a partially as a percussionist, partially as sort of an experimental noise-making machine, and partially melodic, but without too much of a, without intellectualizing it too much, more on instinct and feel. But a large part of me is just reveling in the sound of the group and how we control the dynamics and the feel and watching people dance is just such a fantastic feeling. It's just there's really nothing else like it. And I look around the stage and I see Vanessa and Kay and Gregory and everybody clearly feeling the same way. It's what I imagine a band like the Beatles when they were playing Hamburg and just, ripping the place up, how they might have felt. It feels amazing.
That's awesome. Cool. Vanessa, do you want to comment on that at all?
Sure. I was gonna see if he wanted a little more. Well, I on a really, really good night, to be honest, I will go into kind of like a zone, and it is it's an experience where I really can feel it one at once with the audience and with the band, and the music is just something amazing. I mean, it's like being out of your body or something. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's brings a lot of good endorphins, and dancing always does. It's always fun to see people who've never heard us before just start going, oh my gosh, I do like this. And they start dancing and reacting and, and they become a part of it. So that's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is a lot of fun, the whole experience.
That's awesome. And do either of you guys kind of have a most memorable moment of performing it all? That like really stood out to you in the moment?
You mean for Pylon Reenactment Society?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess going and getting to play at Primavera in Barcelona, Spain. And, I wasn't sure if anybody would even know who we were. But there were people from all over the world who came and saw us. who knew who we were, or if they didn't, they got into us. It was really amazing, an amazing thing. And the crew were all great, and the sound was great, and the lights were great, and the band was spot on. It was just the whole experience was amazing.
That's awesome. That's so cool you got to play in Spain.
We just played Primavera, which is one of the best festivals. I'll just go ahead and say it is the best festival I've ever been to. It we were kind of like down into this big circus tent kind of indie area. It was sponsored by Heineken, but they had everything from our size band that might only have a couple of thousand people, all the way up to a soccer ball, double soccer ball size field that I went in. They had a Janelle Monáe, and then when she finished on the other end, what was that lady's name? Jason.
I'm over here racking my brain trying to think of the real famous lady's name.
Yeah. You just turned around and saw this other band play on the other side of the field, and
yeah, they had
it was just amazing. You know,
Tame and
they
Paul
had all
played.
these different little areas. Like there was the area for teenagers and anime artists, and there were artists drawing all the bands. We were actually drawn by some, so it's a really, really cool event.
Mhm.
Yeah,
if you ever
all
get
the
a
way,
chance to go to Primavera, go to the one in Barcelona.
all the way down to a synthesizer concert in a parking deck in quadraphonic sound by Suzanne Ciani.
Wow.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's such a range of acts, really incredible.
Mhm. Awesome. And with kind of Arts and Draughts coming up on Friday, how do you guys feel kind of going into that performance, being able to kind of engage with the Columbia community?
Well, I think
Pylon have some long-standing South Carolina fans. It's been a long time since I've played in Columbia, but Pylon used to pass through there sometimes, and we do have some fans in Columbia, so I think that maybe they'll be there. But also, we've become an all ages band. We get everything from college students to people my age. You know, it's very, very, very cool mix of people, because it is a very youthful music. It doesn't really sound like anybody else, and I think like when we play in Brooklyn, there's like half the audience would be 21-year-old women, and they're kind of all clustering on mine and Kay's side of the stage. And then on the other side, there's all of the old guys who are all the Guitar Hero lovers, or whatever you want to call them, guitar groupies, and they'll all be standing in front of Jason at first with their arms folded, and then their mouths are dropping open.
That's awesome. And so kind of with Pylon Reenactment Society, how do you think the sound has changed or even stayed the same from the original Pylon?
Well, I'll tell you this, every time you get a different drummer, it totally changes the sound. And right now, we've got a drummer. He was very close to Curtis, but he's not exactly Curtis. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little different, but it's not enough of a difference. I don't think it'd make any difference to anyone who's a long-standing Pylon fan. Gregory has got the beat. Your butt is still going to wiggle, but it is a little different. And maybe it's just me that notices, What do you think, Jason?
Well,
I might have just put my foot in my mouth.
No, not at all. I mean, there's not music is not a competitive sport, so I'm not going to rank drummers.
Yeah, I'm not ranking him. It's just different,
But I'll say that where Curtis, where they're similar and where I think it really works is that Curtis plays like a person who builds houses, and so does Gregory. Like they both sound like they are, you know, to me, it's the sound of hammering a nail into a board. It's not like a jazz drummer who might be, you know, painting something for you. This is industrial music in its attitude, not in its technique necessarily, but so I think it's consistent in that way, and I think Gregory is a fantastic person to follow in Curtis's way. He was always in my mind. Joe Rowe was fantastic too.
Mm.
And Joe Rowe plays like Joe Rowe, and Gregory Sanders plays like Gregory Sanders, and Curtis plays like Curtis. But and I play like me, and Randy plays like Randy, etc. Michael plays like Michael. Kay plays like Kay. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But there's something in there that is very Pylon in its roots and in its feel. You know, like when we first started, I said, I want it to feel like this music more than be exactly rote note for, you know, it, you know. But I know
Right.
you have had to chart out some of this stuff.
Well, I've listened to a lot of live Pylon tapes, and I can say with all certainty that where there are things that are repeated, Randy certainly didn't, you know, play the same thing every time, even on the same tour. He would, night to night, there'd be little differences. So I feel like we've got that leeway. There's the songs are solid enough that they can take a little bit of you know, seat of the pants tweaking, and we're fast on our feet to notice when there's something happening and react to it.
Awesome. Cool. And kind of wrapping things up, do you guys have any advice or anything you would say to kind of aspiring musicians or artists?
You want to take it first, Jason? I'm going to let that sink in for a second.
Sure. I'll say that the business part of music is constantly becoming more complicated, even as it's more accessible for new artists to put their music out into the world. It's harder to. There used to be a filter where, like, if you got through the filter, you might have had a better chance of, you know, getting noticed and possibly making some money at it. But since that is, in my view, less likely, it's even more important that you do it because you love it and you feel the need to do it, or that it's a community thing, that it's what you do with your friends. And I think as long as there's love in it from one angle or another, that's going to translate, and that's going to make people want to listen to it as much as anything else.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I guess I just want to say, just be confident in your own mistakes, because or in yourself, because some of the best stuff I've ever done is originated in a mistake that we were confident enough to see that is what is good, you know, it's better than what we were thinking of, you know. So you know, just be true to yourself, enjoy it. And I think that people are kind of, after this pandemic, and kind of shaking off the cobwebs, so to speak, that they're looking for something to do, and going to a group event like this arts thing where there are a lot of different activities is maybe a good way to shake off some of those cobwebs. we're all a little awkward right now. We all are. We're awkward, socially awkward or whatever from not being able to get out as much. And being in a group where there are different activities and there's music that might inspire you to move, and maybe a beer. And if you have too many, take Uber or Lyft or walk home. There you go. Let's have some fun. You know, I think we're all ready to have a little bit of fun.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Sweet. Well, that's kind of everything I've had. Do either of you guys have anything else you'd like to add about Pylon or Pylon Reenactment Society at all?
I will have some vinyl and some things for sale at the event. Let's see, what else? Oh, and Pylon Reenactment Society, we're in process of recording a full-length project. And it hasn't gotten a lot of attention now because of the pandemic and distribution. But we were filmed for a documentary called Red Turns into Blue, Athens, Georgia Inside Out 2, which is a follow-up to the original Athens, Georgia Inside Out.
Oh, nice.
That has one of the original producers. And you can get that streaming or DVD and see what's going on in Athens, you know, sort of right now.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for meeting with me today. I really had a great time learning about Pylon and Pylon Reenactment Society.
Well, thank you, Zane.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to see you guys Friday.